Yes.
Okay, everybody, we're about to get started. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out for our last Helderberg Neighborhood Association meeting of the year. And we're doing something new tonight. We're getting webcasting live a try. So right now, we are being recorded and it's being broadcast live. It will also be available later on our YouTube channel for viewing. And we can talk about that later. I've heard a couple of members have some comments about it. So I want to first start off by introducing the board, and then we'd like to have everybody else go around just introduce themselves, name, what street you're at, or what your organization. So I'm Eric Huntington. I'm chair of the Helderberg Neighborhood Association. I'll just go down the line here.
I'm Chair, and then secretary.
I'm Eddie Giddy. I'm the new outreach guy. I'm Bill Payton. I am the events chair.
Patty Pierce, I'm the treasurer.
Tom Reese, I'm the vice chair. And we'll start with you.
Leo Lee.
Martha is one.
Chris Albany.
Diane Thomas, New Scotland Avenue. Lynn Harris, Tyler Avenue. Judy Goshe, New Scotland Avenue, also county council member from Mayport.
Ed Nashman, right here on Academy Road. Tim Snyder, Vince again.
Karen Sheehan,
Okay, great. Keith Irish, Ontario Street, New Scotland One Association.
Susan McDermott, Long Ridge.
Okay, and back webcasting, we've got Marshall and then Young Helper. Okay, so tonight our featured speaker is a newly elected representative for the Albany County Legislature District 8, Lynn Harris. And she's going to be speaking on basically what her position does, because a lot of people are like, what does our county representative do? So she's going to be talking about it as much as she can. She doesn't actually start until January, so she's still yet to learn all the responsibilities, but she tells me she has been attending county budget meetings, and also she'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So I will turn it over to Lynn.
Well, thank you all. I'm delighted to be your new. I'm delighted to be your new representative on the county legislature. As Eric said, I don't start till January, and I haven't had my orientation yet, but that's going to be Saturday. And but I did attend 3 of the 4 budget meetings that we had, and I thought that was a very interesting process. What we did was each of the department chairs came in, the DA and the sheriff and all the money, those commissioners came in and made bids as to why we should support their budget and why, they put in what they put in and stuff like that. And then they haggled them out. The committee came to terms, and I guess they put it to the county executive, and then he chopped off some parts that he wanted to reduce some on the line. He went and did reductions, so people were haggling. It was interesting. I didn't realize that they weren't that deep in public like that. So that was kind of curious. As far as what we've done so far, I don't really know all that much about the job. I'm here to understand what you guys think is very important in the county, what your concerns are, what having living in the city and in the county, it's interesting to see how that overlaps. And you have some great city representatives, and I'm hoping to do my best to bring to you all the news that's going on and all the pertinent things that I put a piece of paper over there, yellow slip of paper, and I like to have an email newsletter, so as I learn things are coming up, I can tell you about them, but also solicit your input, because I can't really represent you unless I'm hearing, from you what you're thinking and what's important to you. So as things happen, I'll be putting questions out there, and if you're at all able to respond, I'd be, eternally grateful. And counting. I did sign up with a reform group, and so I'm curious to see how that's going to. As many of you know, I was supported by the Working Families Party, so I found that most of the things on reform agenda that I had a look at, there were 7 items about ethics, transparency, communication, being stronger, making. There were 3 things at the end about the earth and treating people well that I thought were like pretty basic, I could eat with. So nothing on the agenda sounded any different than any of the Working Families Party sort of stuff, $15 minimum wage, and supporting the underserved and making sure that. Also with the county, a lot of what it does is, of course, make laws, but also there's a lot of federal mandates, and we have to make sure that the money is apportioned in such a way that we're, serving the veterans and senior citizens and the programs that we are supposed to be doing. Some interesting things at the budget meeting that we do a lot of work with. It was like FIT was on the list of the reimbursable junior colleges and community colleges. I thought that was kind of interesting. And somebody asked the question, why is FIT on that list? And this is somebody put through a law that you have to support FIT. So I'm curious to see how that all evolves and how Texas Institute of Technology in New York City. So yeah, so it's very curious that how all these things happen, and so I'm going to try to, like I said, share it with you. That's pretty much all I have to share at this particular juncture. I'm going to have more to say after my orientation and learning about, how to make a resolution and how to phrase the law and things like that. And I'm delighted to try this. I'm excited, and I'm hoping that you are too. Thank you. Yes.
In terms of the legislation you can propose, both my home and my daughter's home was victims of burglaries.
Burglaries?
And thanks. And our experience was that there wasn't any way to track the stuff that was stolen. Some of them is not. A lot of things have initials on them. College rings, high school rings are easily identified. But I don't think the police departments can have access to a database that places have to put into. Now they're going so much, these guys don't care where the drinks come from, and they get most of it down. I've written to the state legislators, and I don't know what's going to come of that. It seems to me Albany County could have a system where people who receive these things identify what the votes brought in, puts it into a database that's shared with police departments. But I don't think anything exists now.
There is some sort of requirement that used shops are required to hold on to materials that they've acquired for a certain number of days before selling them. And I believe that they're required to report that, but I'm not 100% sure.
In both cases, as far as I know, there's no access to anything.
Yeah, I know that you take an ID when you bring stuff in, but I'm not sure
Right.
how they inventory the stuff and how they keep track of it. That's definitely something I could.
Right. So they went to 1 or 2 pawn shops and we thought this bad case and actually found something. But other things were not found. And they told her, oh, you can go to pawn shops. And she did, obviously, not surprisingly, she wasn't welcome to pawn shops. Then they lose that, I believe.
Definitely. I'll make a note of that.
So I think the county could be a leader in that issue.
Sure.
I think in the city of Albany, the pawn shops have to report what's taken in, but outside the city, they do not have to.
That's why the bigger the scope, the better it will be. So Albany County is New York State. You just gotta run up to a local gold place and trade it in. Get weighed and gone.
Definitely make note of that.
Thanks.
Anybody else have something on the mind? Yeah,
Are you
what's that? Oh, behind.
starting somewhere?
I gotta get a pen. Excuse me.
In support,
Okay.
in support of this gentleman, I know that I've taken, gold that I own to buyers and sold it, and they've never asked for my identification or anything. They just weigh it, you know, scratch the gold to see what carat it is, and make you an offer. So it would be very easy to sell something that you stole.
Thanks.
When do you enforce any other kind of dog laws other than just them being on the leash when they walk then? Because I had an incident a couple times walking down West Lawrence. There's this dog at 458 West Lawrence. And I sent it into the precinct, everything. He was ready to lunge at me. All I was walking. Called Gary, he brought it to my attention of bringing it to animal control. He helped me out. I missed some of the red tape I didn't have to go through, so. This animal control officer came over. For 40 minutes, I exhausted all my options, and so did he. He says the most he could do was to address it to them, because this dog sits out on the front porch with no harness, no leash, no little corral fence, and they got a fence along the house in the back for this dog. I don't know how many they got, but I just saw the one. And he proceeds to bark, and people are walking up and down that street, kids, everything. But the minute this dog sees me, I don't know what it is. He doesn't like me. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's my sunglasses. I don't know. I just don't know, because I was dressed up in church clothes, and I said, oh my God, that dog is going for me. He's ready, and nobody was around. And I said, I'm gonna walk around the corner, but I try not to act scared. So I walked around the corner, but he kept barking and growling, and it's not a pleasant bark. And he's in between shepherd looking and mutt, I would say. So my girlfriend and I, we had an incident, and God, I thought he was gonna lunge at us, but he didn't. He just, and then I had another incident 2 weeks ago, and he proceeded to bark, and the owner's right out there, and she was in her trunk, cleaning out stuff, and whatever she told the dog, he kept barking and barking and barking. And I just kept walking and walking. I said, if that dog attacks me, I said, if I live through this, I'm gonna be lucky, but it's my street too, and I shouldn't have to fear that. But when they made this leash law, what happened that they don't keep these dogs? I know it's their property, this is my understanding. But if they go past that property in front of their house, you're dead meat. I don't understand when they pass that law. I thought it was meant for every innuendo when it comes to them being off a leash. And this dog doesn't even have a collar, no leash, nothing. She just proceeds to keep, well, the owners just proceed to keep the dog in the front sometimes. And you never know when he's going to be in the front. So it's pretty scary, but, you know, sometimes I walk down South Main, but this is a shortcut to get work, because I walk. And I shouldn't have to fear that. But when they made a law for that leash law, I thought that included them sitting without, I mean, if they would, without a leash on the front porch. But like the animal control officer, Officer Jacob
Is it one?
yes. And, he said to me, I've been bitten, you know, he's been attacked and telling me his stories. I said, look, nobody should have to fear that. What happened to this leash law? But it doesn't work for the people that are walking, because kids walk up and down that street all the time. And it's pretty frightening. And how dare her put the dog back on the porch? And I'm sure Officer Jacobson, he followed it through.
Okay. If I could follow up on that too. Sure. I walk the neighborhood a lot on Forest Avenue. Somebody ties their very aggressive dog onto the front rail of their porch. And it's very frightening because the dog leaps and snaps and snarls and carries on, so much so that the male carriers told me they're afraid to approach the house. What if that rope broke? Dogs should not be tethered, and they certainly should not be tethered in the front of the yard where people are walking past.
I should get these dogs to avoid my problem. Right.
When I feel they're abusing the privilege though.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because I thought this leash law was gonna cover them being in the front as well as them walking down the street with the leash on. That's what I thought, until I jumped high in the air almost, and I thought this dog was really gonna lunge at me, and I said, oh, let me take another turn on this, so. Wait.
We need stricter laws about aggressive dogs.
Yeah, we really do. I agree.
No, we have another question.
Okay.
So I just listened to a really question, something that I'd like to maybe to, I don't know if they're bring to the council legislature. I don't know if they're hearing it or not. The governor is planning basing in the $15 minimum wage on for a couple of years. So it's sorry. Yeah. I was hoping that maybe the county legislature could
Expedite. Everybody good with that? Yeah, you think about that?
Expedite something over what the governor says.
Well, Albany County could do their own, $50 minimum before the government, before the state was supposed to do that. That's what I would like to see. Has that happened in other municipalities? It has.
There's some cities that already have $15.
And you're talking not for the state workers. I just read something about state workers that have, but this is across the county, anybody can.
So the question that goes along with that I've learned, being on the county council, is do you want $15 an hour for people who are getting health benefits? Because the health benefits are quite, the cost of them, for example, for a family, is quite substantial. And I'm not sure that the state law applies, you know, the 15 minimum, the $1 an hour minimum is applicable if you're getting full health benefits. So, are people getting less than $15 an hour will get full health benefits? Yes. Oh, yeah, the school district and the city. Yeah.
To go up, $11, sorry, salary, full then.
Well, it's something to look into. I don't know all the ramifications of it, but
Yeah, interesting.
so that is something that is kind of an interesting policy question. You know, do you want to subject everybody to $15 minimum And then potentially what does that mean in terms of pushback on health benefits and what they have to contribute, et cetera.
Certainly 15, and no help. Interesting, so maybe some kind of tiered approach.
These days, most employers for family coverage are paying around $10,000 to $12,000 a year. Just for that.
Yes.
You mentioned something about the reform group. This related to what charter proposal might be presented.
I think that's how they started talking about it, and it was a group of people who were running, and it was people already on the legislature and some local people, and they were concerned about that the charter should, be independent and not. Yes, like they wanted to go down, and that was the first thing that they said something about 5%. And we had broadcasting on their list. Where did he go? There you go. Broadcasting was on the list, term limits for leadership. Yeah. Leveling the playing field. Things like that. Kathy.
I'm sorry, what specifically about the broadcasting, is that for like social media?
Yeah, they were talking about the public access and broadcasting, and getting it out there a little bit more and at higher quality than it is now. Personally, I don't understand that the minutes have to be foiled, and that doesn't make any sense to me. You can't really get them on the website. If you go to the website, all they do is list all the legislation that was passed in caps in no particular order, and it's not like you group together by like this is a healthcare thing. They're just listed there in the order that it happened. So it's hard to find. So that's a lot of it too. They don't really have a structure of how they're the record keeping, and so the minutes are more difficult. So if you're only going to do webcasting, I'm wondering what the minutes are going to be, because it's hard to search live broadcasts if you're looking for a specific kind of information. You try to have to go out a couple of times when I'm on that board. You have to have some kind of searchable, if you want to look back in history and find out what, in addition to, being able to be there in person, it's also helpful to have a good record of the minutes that's easy to find.
You want to, these are public meetings?
Yes. Well, I couldn't find them anywhere, and I asked to wire somebody, and they said you have to foil them, and I have yet to do that.
Judy, isn't that illegal?
Probably. I mean, they might be there somewhere, but they're so difficult to find. And
I don't know if there's a specific legal requirement that all minutes be online. So they're not have to be online, but
they're probably in somebody's office, somewhere.
I don't know, that doesn't seem like the whole thing. FOIL is the mechanism by which people have an access right to something. Most government entities are more proactive than that.
Yeah, especially nowadays, they try to use things like open data. I know for like the health department, they get a ton of data, a lot of money on people's time and resources to respond to them. And just because that's the only way to do it, it wasn't because they're trying to hide it. So one of the first things they did was make all this data available on their website. So now you can just, say, I want to see this subset of data and people can download it. And all these FOIL requests went away, and all these people would be freed up to do what they work. It's a good thing.
And most of my experience has been on nonprofit boards, which, you can't say a lot of people's names in public, but everything is public, in government. So that was kind of an interesting thing during the budget meeting when they're talking about a line and a person's job, and they'll just name the person and talk about the salary. And that's very shocking to a person who's, always kept that all very quiet and just talk about the job and what they're doing, not necessarily their name.
Are you familiar with See-Through New York? See-Through New York. Are you familiar?
No, I'm not.
It's a website where you can look up every single state and municipal corporation.
Is that what it's called? Like, people have told me that they've done that, Really? Fantastic. Well,
Yeah, we've had,
That's
we've had that
pretty
for years. Okay, well,
It is a little shocking.
it's about 7:30, so just to keep on schedule, does anybody else have any questions they want to bring up at this time? It sounds like she'll probably have a lot more information for us in the future ready.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, I wanted to mention some board business. So it's, we're almost into 2016, believe it or not. So we're working, we have to talk about elections of board members for 2016. So all the current board members you see here would like to serve another term in 2016. So we are going to be having a vote in January at the January meeting. They used to, a couple of years ago, have a membership meeting. It would be in December to do that, but I assume we'd like to meet in December. So we're kind of making the first meeting of the year in January, the third Wednesday in January. It's going to be a combination of that annual election meeting plus kind of the first meeting of the year. If there was a change in the board membership at that time, then that would be reflected immediately. So at the next meeting, we have the board members in charge. So any members that you know in the association in good standing can nominate another resident or themselves to run for a position in the board. And then we have a communications director, a position that's open. Nominations can be made verbally or in writing to any of the current members of the board prior to the January 20th meeting. Board members are elected by a majority of the membership at the January meeting. And then board members serve a one-year term from January 2016 to January 2017. Any questions about that? Okay. So as I mentioned, we do have a vacant communications director position. So what that person does is you're kind of person who loves to be on top of your social media, your Facebook, your emails, other website interactions, social media. That's the kind of person we need to kind of monitor all the communications coming into and out of board media channels. We try to get back to people the same day, if not the same day, certainly within 24 hours. We do receive a lot of emails that are kind of, they have to be distributed that day. We do sometimes get some emails about crime that's occurring, so that we want to get those out as soon as possible. So we like to be as responsive as possible. So I won't lie and say it's one of the easiest director positions. It takes some of your time every day, really. But if you enjoy doing it, like I do, I'm the interim communications director. I enjoy doing it a lot, but it's a lot for one person to be doing. So I would appreciate some help. So besides responding to members' inquiries on email, voicemail, and text messages that we get, you'd also assist with the development and maintenance of our social media presence. So that means our website. We do have some web development help through Marco and all through Patty's sister-in-law. Yeah. So they can do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to putting stuff out. But as far as doing posts and so forth, and also kind of syndicating our posts. If I send out something on email, I also like to share it on our Facebook. I like to share it on Helderberg next door. I like to share it on our website. So let us know if you're interested. If not, then you can think about it and nominate yourself and let us know for the January 20th election. Any questions about that position? Okay. Next, the rain garden. We are done doing weekly inspections of that for the year. Joe Coffey's not here, but it went very well. The garden thrived very well this year, and it certainly served its purpose a couple of times, especially when we had 5 inches of rain in one night, and it fell right up to the top. The Pinewood Avenue Rain Garden is a green infrastructure project that was awarded to the Helderberg Neighborhood Association back in 2014. So this year was our first year taking care of it. One of the first things we found out after we started was, oh, by the way, Helderberg Neighborhood Association takes care of it. So we decided to make it fun, and so we established the Rain Garden Rangers, or bioretention basin engineers, as Tom prefers. And then,
I think it's catchier. I mean, it looks better on the hat.
I don't know, if I was a kid, I'd want to be a Rain Garden Ranger, bioretention basin engineer. So anyway, we did get 4 people to volunteer. We had then switch off in the weekly inspections. So we completed our weekly inspections. So now we're down to storm-only events. So after that, Joe Coffey is going to be checking out the garden, on a periodic basis once the snow comes. We'll start up again. Probably in March, I'll be asking for people to volunteer for that again. I already got 1 volunteer who says he wants to do it every year. Let's see how the rain garden develops over the years. But I think having a total of 4 people, because you only have to look at it once a month, is good. And what it means is basically you have to do a little weeding. Let us know if there's some garbage or some bushes that have been damaged or something. But it's not a lot of work. It's fun.
Where is it?
It's at the end of Pinewood at Hackett.
On that corner.
Yeah, on the bench, and they put in. We were all wondering what they were doing. We didn't know about the project when they dug the big hole. We were wondering what are they doing. That's what that was for. Yeah, go on. Any questions about that? Yeah, it was the first kind of green infrastructure project that Albany awarded when they were.
I think we got it for the most home energy audits. And they
Yes.
I mean, that's how we want it.
Yeah. Okay, next I'm going to talk about the historic Albany Foundation's Holiday House Tour. So they're looking for houses in Helderberg, and I sent out an email about this. There's also a flyer over there with information about it. So basically, they're looking for, I think it's right here. They're looking for homes. They would prefer older homes, pre-1940-ish, that have got their original character pretty much preserved. They can look modern inside and the outside. They would kind of prefer historically preserved. What they're really looking for is homes that are really decked out for the holidays. And it's a chance to show off your house. And also, you can actually buy things to decorate your house. You can even paint inside your house. And you show your total invoice amount to Historical Albany Foundation. And it will be a tax-deductible donation to them. So you can actually write it off.
You nominate someone else's one?
You can certainly let us know.
Can we upgrade our kitchens?
Some people purchase the holiday lights, get house cleaning done, get an extra tree, do some touch-up paint. So it's considered a donation and tax deductible. So I don't know about a whole kitchen or not.
You wouldn't get it all right off the tax city.
Okay, they typically, it's going to be running on December 13th. It's going to be noon to 4, and they do 2 shifts. So that if you're hanging out at your house and then you're going to go see somebody else's house that's in the neighborhood, goes good. So far I know they've only got 2 houses in Helderberg. They'd like to get the list finalized by around December 1st, but they can take it after that. They do have to print out all the maps. No addresses are shared until the day of the event, and only if people go and purchase a ticket, then they get a map, which is also their remittance. And then gets checked out at the house. They provide a docent for your house so that they know the information. You're more than welcome to be there and also have friends there to help out. But if you don't want to be, that's fine too. It's a lot like their Center Square House and Garden Tour. I think it's a great chance to show off the neighborhood. So, I would, if I had a nice house, I would.
Second.
So, what I got next here. Okay, we're actually up to the treasurer report and membership report. So I'm going to switch over to Patty first. I'm also going to bring up on our screen financial report. And she's got a couple of exciting news items to share.
The first thing is that we switched from Quebec to Costco. So it's a little bit more of and the second big news is that we had been waiting for a check from St. Peter's for $445 got that. It's also so we're happy about that.
The Ladale's $35.
they sponsored one of our movies over the summertime. So that's $350 for the membership.
There's a bit of red tape.
Yeah.
It's kind of an understatement.
So I'll just kind of go over the report.
Can you share this?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay.
Should I?
Yeah, go ahead if you want to go through.
Okay, so revenues, we have quite a lot of people on memberships, 45,000 memberships, $225 towards business memberships for $210, and donations that add up to $425. And our expenses, ticket supplies were $117.80, ticket food and supplies $309.12, copies of the reporter $308, gift out fee $225 checks. The Costco costs $12.25. So our Costco statement is $5,198.94, and PayPal $61.
Oops, and that's not on this.
Whoops. Yeah, that's gonna be 11/13/50.
Okay. Any questions about our finances? Okay. All right, you can switch back. All right, so we're at my favorite part, membership in audience announcements and concerns. And I'm actually going to start out with my own concern, just because Gary Tucker told me to. Last night, about 7:30, our doorbell rang. And so the dog started barking like crazy. Walter answered the door, and there was a man there, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, wrong house." And he ran back down the sidewalk, got in the car, and he drove away, which was odd. So I did send a message to Gary Tucker. I said, "I'm just letting you know this happened." I gave a description of the person and said, "Should I share this with the neighborhood?" He said, "Yeah." So I did send it out in an email today. So in case you didn't get it, he was a black male, looked like in his early 20s. He was about 5'10", 5'11". He's wearing a hoodie. Maybe totally benign, a non-event occurrence, but it may not be. So it's kind of, trust but, notify kind of thing. So I did notify the police because it's an unusual event. We don't usually have people doing that late at night. So just, I know some other people have already written with some things that have happened, but I don't know if, it's the same person or anything. So I just wanted to share that.
A lot of neighbors was actually saying that as they do that, to find out what's there.
Well, that's what happened to my friend over in Troy last year. He had the exact same thing happen. It came to the door, a young man, and he said he was looking for Tom, and he's like, "Well, Tom doesn't live here." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong house." Well, the next day, when both he and his wife were out, their house got robbed by this guy. And it was the same thing. He then, after he said, "Oh, I got the wrong house," he went down, got in the car, and drove away. And apparently, afterwards, the police found out he had been around to a lot of different houses and they were saying the exact same thing. So, if you hear anything, see anything unusual, just anything, any kind of unusual event, especially if it sounds just like this, certainly let Gary Tucker know or call the Albany dispatch.
I would like to bolster Eric's saying we had the unfortunate situation where our house was broken into and my car was gone through on 2 separate occasions, also on Patty Road. So sometimes people are knocking on your door and they want to see when you're home, when you're going to be there, people are watching your comings and goings. People can be very sketchy, so just urge everyone to be on very high alert and be aware of your surroundings and what's going on in front of your house.
Well, that's what happened. I guess in the fall, we were loading up the car with somebody. Mid-morning, took both cars over to Firestone. By the time we got back, the back door was open, and the stuff was gone. Midday, somebody was sitting there watching us.
Yeah, that's, they know you're working during the day, so that's.
Can I just add to that? And then on our block very recently, just a reminder to, I mean, Tucker would say this and he said it many times, just always keep your car doors locked. We have a neighbor who pulled up in his parking down his driveway, way down, deep down in the driveway, it was in the mid-afternoon, ran into his house to get some papers because he was on his way to the accountant's. And he had mistakenly left his wallet in his van, and he had just gotten paid for a couple weekends worth of work, so it was a considerable amount of money, and I'm talking like $900 to $1,000. And some kids just ran up, grabbed the wallet, and off they went. So another reminder, always talk to them.
Yeah, that's good.
In our neighborhood, we have groups of kids that watch the mail carriers and the FedEx and UPS. They follow them and then steal the packages off the porch. Fortunately, our mail carrier is very cautious. They're very careful about hiding when he delivers, but UPS and FedEx, there's nothing to sign for, they just leave it. And it's a very systematic theft that goes on.
Does anybody have a security system that they like?
Small dog.
We'll leave it on leash on there.
Small dog.
All right. I did want to talk about a couple issues that were raised at the last meeting. One had to do with dog behavior, and that was resolved by Officer Tucker to the citizen satisfaction. And the other had to do with the use of the track and field behind the Albany College Pharmacy. And that issue was city residents using the track and field while the college students were there. And they thought the city had partially paid for this, so they had a right to be there. Well, it turns out the city did not actually partially pay for it, but residents do have a right to use that track and field when the college is not using it for a particular event. So then it becomes kind of a shared space, like a park. And we had talked about finding out head languages with Kathy Tracy, actually working on getting that. Trying to find out what the exact language was and maybe get a sign so that we can get the word out so that this is available for city residents right around here. It'd be an easy walk to get to. So we're still working on that, but just clarify, there were no city funds used for that.
Can I just add to that? I mean, a lot of longtime residents might remember reading about, there was a philanthropist, Marie Silverman, who gave the money to purchase that property, and it was within, this is back when University Heights was formed, and it was with the understanding that the fields back there were, that the community was able to use the field. So there is.
So there's specific easement language,
Yes.
is what I saw in the email, so
But
it'd be
I
nice
know-
if we
but
could get our hands on that.
Right, and the other thing, I think I had mentioned to you that going over there, you'll see that it's actually not very welcoming at all because the only sign that's there says no unauthorized use.
Yeah.
So that's something to work about, try to-
Yeah, I mean, if it's another amenity for the neighborhood, and we were
Yeah.
originally granted access to it.
And it's
Sure.
beautiful, they put a lot of money into fixing it up now, the track over there.
Yeah.
And field.
Okay, thanks. Okay, but new announcements and concerns? Sure. We're gonna get to that. Yeah, I'm gonna go through the whole thing, but first, it's gotta be after announcements and concerns from the audience.
I'd like to thank the board for keeping this organization moving.
Happy to, and I'm also very happy that we have some young energetic people joining. Thank you.
Here, I know this probably has nothing to do with our meeting, but the elections that took place this year.
Yeah.
With the school and everything,
With the school?
the Albany High bid,
The Albany High bond issue.
Yes, I was wondering if something.
they stuck me way over on Hibernian Hall when I've been voting at the John Bach school night, the old school 19, and Monte Cristi, and then they swing me way over at Hibernian.
I
I
don't know what
was
the,
so upset about that.
I don't know what the rationale is. I've had the same thing happen since I moved into the neighborhood. I've been at Hibernian Hall, I've been at New Scotland Avenue.
What's going on?
And now I'm at the public library. It just seems like, I don't know, there's somebody shaking up one of those little crystal balls.
I mean, is it
like
the
this.
zone? that-
I have no idea.
Just-
Maybe Kathy or Judy knows.
I mean, what, county board of elections.
Oh, it's a county board election.
It's
County
kind
board
of-
of elections.
I know she
And
doesn't
when
know
they
that.
changed, they recently changed the county legislative district lines, that impacted
The school district.
quite a few of the EDs. So, when, as soon as you start impacting one or two areas, then there's kind of a domino effect and they have to adjust.
Yeah, but you definitely do have to pay attention to those cards you get in the mail.
Wait a minute, I said, what am I doing out in the boonies here? I said, I don't walk this way. I said.
Well, I've been looking at Hibernian Hall, I really didn't know, but, New Scotland Elementary and also library, those spaces.
I mean, it just didn't seem like it made sense.
Yeah.
If I can, so the ninth ward is, most people here live in the ninth ward, some people live in the seventh. But the ninth ward covers most of this side of Scotland from Grove over up to South Main. And there's really not a great public building in that area. So part of what is happening is because the County Board of Elections is not negotiating more than 2 election districts to vote in the school, and they only have the library, then a whole bunch of people who are in close proximity to both those buildings, we can only room for 3 EDs, and we have 9 EDs, essentially, election districts. So that's part of the problem. I mean,
They really chopped it off.
so.
It was worse.
So you actually, so are you on the other side of Helderberg towards Hackett?
I'm right next door to Key Bank,
All right,
on New Scotland Avenue. And I live right up the street from John Bach Library.
Yeah,
I
I saw
mean, it's insane. It just didn't make sense. I mean, I love to walk some
so there's
parts of
people on the
city.
other side of Helderberg towards Hackett on some of our streets that vote over at the Hibernian Hall. So you think you have a walk or whatever.
Judy, it was worse than that. There was people that had to go over to Myers over on Whitehall Road that lived south of Helderberg.
That's actually closer than Hibernian Hall. So tell me about it. Boy, I feel that.
Yes, in the back.
Could I ask the audience, who voted? I, went to Hibernia to vote, and one of the things I wanted to vote on was support of the school improvement, bill. And I don't know how I missed it. Evidently had to turn your ballot over.
There's 2 of that.
And was it obvious? Because
Yes, it was.
it was obvious.
Plus, there was 2 propositions on the back.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't even think to turn it over. I thought it went in one way.
The paper does, but you gotta turn it over to vote on the
A
back.
lot of the election inspectors were telling people to turn it over, but obviously not all.
No, so it wasn't obvious then.
Yeah.
If you had to be told by somebody, and I wasn't told.
That can be something.
I believe it was on top of the ballot,
So it was
too.
a Civil service test,
And
and
the margins.
we were told to look on the back of some instructions, and we all ended up taking all 400 questions as opposed to the 75 we were supposed to. So we had kind of a mental meltdown for no reason. And we did bring that to, the attention of the people in charge of that. So there must be somebody, maybe the Board of Elections, they can say at this place, they didn't properly provide.
And there's other problems with the ballot, and it's very, very easy to fill in a circle for the write-in. And I know one of the things we were gonna do is take a look at the numbers of write-in
choices that didn't even have a name written. And that would tell you how many people made a mistake and filled in the circle for the writing rather than above it.
That's what I did
for my
election.
But we will,
I did a FOIL request for the tally on the write-ins, where there was actually named, because there was almost 5% write-ins in my ward, 2 names.
so that tells you right there.
I had to redo mine too, because
How many,
that happened to me too. I mean, I had to
whatever.
redo it. I made a mistake doing what you just said, 50, yeah.
You did the same.
50 to 75. I actually, and even though I looked for it, I actually put a little mark on it, and it wouldn't accept my ballot because I started to do that for one candidate, so luckily it spit it out. But, you know, so here I am, I'm aware of it, because, you know, I said, I look at the election returns, and
So we'll bring that up in Board of Elections.
I just wonder how many people did vote on the front and there was no vote on the back.
Exactly, so you just automatically push it in, you don't think the parent
Yeah.
will.
exactly, it's possible.
Yeah.
What was weird
Yeah,
about
wait
that,
till they
to vote
certify
for it,
the
so
vote.
we were definitely looking over the form to be there, but, yeah.
What was weirder though is that there was more people voted for the proposition in the county than the high school in the city. And they were both on the back of the form.
Some people decided not to vote at all.
Yeah.
On the high school proposition.
Whatever the case was, I know, I just saw the numbers like that.
But they, so many,
In here, in
In the city.
front of the paper ballot at the top, and there's probably a better way to do this, but there actually was writing at the top that said, hey, there's stuff on the back.
Yeah, up in the margin.
When we went to vote, they told us to make sure to put on the back.
Yeah, well then, apparently they knew, they had to inform people.
But Kathy, you want to talk to the school board and just make sure they know that some people are having trouble even seeing those votes, seeing the votes on the back, but they didn't vote.
Yes.
I think it's very well they know. Not that they do it.
Do we know, are they putting that referendum back up for another vote? Or-
I know they're meeting tonight to discuss some of those.
Okay.
Tomorrow night,
I thought it was tonight. Maybe there's a couple meetings, I don't know.
they have to make a decision about whether or not to put the same proposal before the voters, or to present a modified proposal. Or I suppose do nothing at all. It's going to take a few weeks to sort it.
Well, as a former teacher, I'm used to the idea that when you put something into the machine, it reads one surface. You know, whether you're correcting tests, you know, scantrons or whatever. And so it was just a habit of me to just put that ballot in without even thinking that there was something on the other side.
The way those machines are set up, you can put it in any direction of the four. In, out, upside down, in, out. Doesn't matter which direction it will read it. As long as it's marked. As long as it's marked properly, it'll read it in all 4 directions.
Just Leo, in terms of what you were saying, you know, the decision is that should they put it back up again, the big thing. It seems to me what we're talking about here is a decision that should be made before they decide that. Was it a fair election? Did people see it? Was it broken? If yes, then you can go to that next question.
Even if it's not, they have to go to that next question.
Well, no, well, if they clearly showed it, that geez, 40% of the people didn't see the thing. You know, what kind of vote was it? Wasn't right.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of money or time would be involved in doing that. You know, going through all those paper ballots. To check.
It's all on computers.
Yes,
Everything's on computers.
Yeah, maybe they can do some kind of analysis, I don't know.
It is a good question.
You can't really have the answer. The person decide not to vote. She asked me.
But you have the raw information.
Yeah,
Say,
and the percentage was.
how many people voted on one side and how many people voted on the second side.
question.
Okay, any other concerns or issues? Okay, all right, so we're doing a vote tonight. So I sent out an email about this, but in case you don't get email, the issue is this. I attended the October 7th Council of Albany Neighborhood Associations meeting, and at that, the mayor and her administration gave the proposed 2016 budget and talked about, the state of affairs in Albany. Things are good, but on the other hand, there were a lot of, there's still a lot of expenses coming up that they're paying for, and we still don't have the revenue to cover it. So there's a deficit, and one of the ways we're making up that deficit is they've had this capital city fund request that they've made to New York State, which has been 2 years in the planning. They feel pretty confident they're going to get it, but the mayor specifically asked all the Albany neighborhood associations present if they would publicly support a letter supporting it or other actions that the mayor's office asked for. So I can't make that decision for the neighborhood association. That's something the membership has to decide by majority. So that's why tonight we're voting on this issue. So does anybody have any questions about that? Sure. Yeah, I'll get to that. Does anybody have questions besides how to use the ballot? Is there any questions on more questions about the purpose of the vote? I did get emails from people arguing no.
More than one? Because I know one.
Yeah. There was, I'm not going to be naming names or anything, but things I read in the Times Union, things I received in email range from what shows the failure of her administration, and she should be asking the state taxpayers to go around to, oh no, another transfer of government wealth, along those lines.
Not when you got 61% tax exempt property. That's a problem.
And I'm not here to influence your vote one way or the other, but it was a compelling case when we saw the numbers. I mean, for example, now we're up to 61% tax exempt property in the city. Unfortunately, our property tax was very high. The mayor said she will not raise property taxes. I know there was something in Times Union that said in order to make this up, it would have to be like 22% property tax increase. But the mayor's always said she's not doing that because we can't afford it. Nobody in the city can afford it now. We certainly can afford 22%. So they will find existing city services to cut, but because everything is cut to the bone, we won't like that happens. What specifically is going to happen, I don't know. So that's what the vote is for tonight. So now I can go over how to do the ballot. So if you are a member in the neighborhood boundaries and you're a member in good standing and your membership's up to date, then you can vote. So everybody should have grabbed a ballot or received a ballot when we came in. It's a little piece of paper that shows what the issue is and all the yes and no tab and you can tear off. If you didn't get one, you can grab one now, and then Patty is going to walk around the ballot box. Right here,
The coffee can?
a coffee can. Our ballot box is sponsored by Folgers. And then we'll count them up. We did get 9 absentee ballots total, and those will be added in, so we'll be able to announce the vote. If you look at it, it says what the issue is, and then tear off one tab. Either yes, I agree with this, I do want the HNA public support, or no, I do not. Yeah, you're going to tear off the tab, and the person coming around the ballot box will put the tab in the ballot.
Oh, you just want the tab, you want the word?
No, just the tab. Just tear off
Turn
one
it
tab.
over. Turn it over. Make sure it says the same thing on both sides.
I know.
One smart one after this next
Lots,
year.
lots of time and effort went into this.
It does look
Nice
nice.
job.
It was nothing.
So it's
I did
just
it-
one little word,
I'm Googling this, they're like, there's a way to do it, I'm like, oh, that's simple. Okay.
one little word, that's what goes in there,
Yeah,
not this thing.
democracy.
Hand out poker chips. Take a red one, take a green, blue.
Well, things happen, and that's why, look at putting in, not putting up back. Things happen. And so, I don't vote on issues unless there's a tie, in which case I would vote. However, I do get to vote myself during the election. Making a good candidate. Okay, so these guys are gonna count it up. So while they're doing that, I'm going to actually let the common council do an update.
You want to move on? Sure.
You wanna come up in front?
Okay. I mean, basically, it's budget. I know, I don't really have too much to report, actually. We are in this, because you talked about the fact that this year's budget has a $12.5 million deficit. And so, and we've already cut programs and services to the bone. And the mayor, has done presentations, and there is sources of revenue, new sources of revenue that they've come up with, but it doesn't begin to satisfy, get the balance budget. So we are at $12.5 million in debt. Just to give you, I can give you.
Just explain something about this. Part of what's going on is for years, the city had been getting like an $8 million advance, essentially. And that stopped at the very end of the Jennings administration. So, and at the same time, he used a lot in the reserves in his last budget, so there would be a zero tax increase. And so now we have nothing left in our reserves. And we're not getting that additional money because, and the reason why we don't have it left in our reserves is because we used some of the reserves last year, and also because some of the things in the last budget, based on 2 years ago, Jennings' budget, didn't pan out. We're also having a problem with red light camera revenue, came in more slowly.
I've put those lights as many times as I.
I couldn't wait. They scored in 5 minutes.
And this deficit really does go back to the fact that we do have so many properties here in the city of Albany that do not have to pay property taxes. Lots of not-for-profits, and half of those are state-owned properties also. The mayor has made efforts to get fees from the not-for-profits because they do use a lot of our city services, police and fire, for example. But that amount, I mean, that's something she's really only been doing since she was elected. So it's hard to get that money. The not-for-profits to agree to pay these additional fees in lieu of taxes. She has been working on that, and she's got $100.5 million in the budget to our fees from our not-for-profits. But she also wants the state to pony up for the services that they receive from the city.
Right, especially when the legislature is in session. Because I work down on the plaza and I see, when the state legislature is in session, there's just tens of thousands of people, it seems like every day, and it's a lot of city services.
Right, and we do have a pilot in place. Most of you probably know that. That's for the Empire State Plaza, and that payment in lieu of taxes. That's what the pilot means. Is a 30-year pilot, a 30-year agreement, and the spin up that Judy was talking about was we're so desperate for the funds that the mayor of Maritime's got advances on that pilot money. Now, one of the things Mayor Sheehan is pursuing is additional pilots, additional payments in lieu of taxes on other state-owned properties. That would be Harriman Campus. There's also East Parking Garage below the Empire State Plaza, and also the new convention center. So there's a lot of reasons for the state to pony up some more money because of these other state-owned properties. But it's a gamble. And so instead of going and borrowing on the Empire State Plaza pilot, she says, you know, you need to pay for the other state-owned properties. And another, you mentioned Capital City fund, and that's something that we're trying to explain to the governor because we're the capital city. There are a lot more costs and so on and so forth, and we believe we deserve this additional funding from the state.
Right.
So anyway, as far as our budget discussions are concerned, she's not raising taxes as you mentioned earlier, but we are looking for ways to show the state, and we've been really told that we need to do that, to show that we're making we're making cuts in all possible areas. And one of the things that a lot of communities have been doing is looking at starting to go to a fee-based trash collection. And this is a really hard thing for people in the city of Albany because that's one of the, we all have very high property taxes, and that's one of our benefits. We'll always say, well, we get free trash pickup. But it looks like we do have to begin moving in that direction. And that's one of the things that's under discussion now on the council is how we go about doing that. The mayor's office has proposed going for asking our single, our 2-family, 3-family homes to pay a fee on not on their first unit, but on their second or third unit, as a way to begin raising those funds. And they've come up with an amount of $1.5 million that she wants to raise through trash collection fees. But it's pretty clear that trash collection fee will be extended to all homestead property owners eventually, just because of these increased costs the city has. Yep.
It seems like this would be a good opportunity for the city to look into having people pay for the amount of trash they generate, rather than.
I'm glad you mentioned that because we are. It's one of the things we asked them to do is look at all possibilities. You're talking about pay as you throw. So people would, purchase a bag type of thing. Maybe you'd be allowed a bag and then you have to purchase any additional bags. There's a lot of communities that have done that. And we've asked them to begin to look at some of these other alternatives for trash collection. Unfortunately, because we're in such financial straits for this coming budget year, they have to come up with a solution that they can put into effect in the short term. So,
but this does nothing to address the fact that we have the landfill issues. I mean, you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
I agree with you. And we are, like I said, this is
because
still,
once the fee is instituted, it's never going to be rolled back.
you're right. It's something we're still discussing. We're trying to come up with a good solution, isn't it? There's a lot of, yeah.
Well, yeah.
I was wondering if you anticipate, how 4 units and above, they have to have commercial garbage.
Yes, they have
And that causes a lot of angst in some neighborhoods because it's loud and it's coming through at another time than regular garbage. So would the garbage, the mayor's thing, they'd also be bidding against the independent company to try to get their garbage as well?
That hasn't come up.
Income?
That has not come up, actually. That's interesting. No, that has not. So,
Well, you would think a starting place would be appliances, tires, and construction materials. God knows I've gotten rid of a lot of that stuff, and most cities would not tolerate that.
yes, you mean, you're talking about going into those things going into the landfill?
Wherever they should go, we should actually have to pay for their disposal.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
That's an idea.
how has it come up with that it's gonna be for 2 families, 3 families instead of citywide?
Because they figure that it's a commercial venture when you rent out. And you also have the opportunity to write off the cost of trash collection when you have a rental property.
I have a rental.
So that is,
I also pay higher taxes because my value of my home is more. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons that I'm paying more for my service.
that's why I said there isn't a good,
No, it is- I mean, if you're gonna charge a fee, you should charge it across the board. It doesn't seem
and
like-
we are looking at that. But this initial proposal had to do with, commercial properties that, so they rent out.
That's the fee, is it?
It would be
property
a
taxes, or is it,
a separate fee.
I mean, and you said it
Would it
bills
be
to the
on your
city.
bill? Separate.
You said like it's a bill to the city.
You would get a bill for your trash.
You get a bill.
Yeah. Right now, well, depends on, they figure it costs about $180 per unit, housing unit for trash.
Has there been studies that other cities have done? I mean,
They
I'm
have
sure
looked
that
at
a house that doesn't want to, can't afford to pay the hundreds of dollars, they're just gonna have to pay, and they should be trash over the city. I don't know, just think people are gonna be dumping trash elsewhere, it's not that
For,
great.
to not have to pay this, the fee. Well, there is that concern, so there will have to be some enforcement.
You know that in Gilderland, if you're a homeowner, you have to separate your garbage and your recyclables, and they charge them to have their recycles out. And I think they're trying to get them to pay to get garbage hauled out.
Yeah, so it's something that, a lot of municipalities are facing.
Unrelated to the garbage issue, there's a lot of development happening in the city of Albany the past few years of Albany Medical Center development. There's a lot of development downtown, new housing being established. What are the tax revenues? Are they bringing taxes? Is it coming years to come? Where
Well, I think that's the hope. I mean, I know there's a very big push to get more people in, more residential properties up and rented downtown. And that all the rental properties near Albany Medical Center, yes, it all should really make a big difference in terms of bringing more revenue. So that's one of the things I know the mayor has talked to the governor about, how we need help in the short term here because there's so many good things happening here in the city to increase revenue in terms of bringing people into these new properties and stuff.
But a lot of those new properties don't pay taxes, isn't that the thing? They have a period of time where they don't have to pay?
Well, there are some areas where that's the case. But right, so we do have to watch that carefully to make sure that there's plenty of properties that are paying additional revenue.
Questions? Yeah, I forgive me, I don't understand politics very well, but I'm in business. You need to make up something sort of revenue. We just charge fees. Why don't we just charge the state? I mean, like, do they pay their own? I mean, what is
It's
it?
in the law, it's in the state law that we can't, that they don't have to pay taxes. Right.
Given that taxes, is there anything that says you don't have to pay a fee? Yeah.
Well, that's what these pilots are, but it's very tough to get legislation passed in order to require them to pay these.
Again, I don't.
That's
But what I'm saying is, like, why do we have to, like, can't, like, Mayor Cheatham be like, you know what, here's a
We have talked about.
$50 fee for, I don't know, being Tuesday. Who knows?
Yes, we have talked about.
Tuesday.
But it's government is easier said than done to institute.
We have a constitution that says government decisions need to be rational, not arbitrary and capricious. So there's that restriction. There's also an issue of, so it has to be rational and reasonable connection. The other thing is you charge a fee, technically, if you don't have state legislation, you need to make sure that you are only charging the costs, and that's where there's a real threat. Now, we collect water fees. Like this guy. For the water. So, we can charge them water fees, and
maybe some fees that we can charge, but it is not, if there's not a big global way you can hit, and municipalities can't charge other governments, because then basically you can anti other governments, never mind what they do to us with all their unfunded mandates, but so I'm gonna stop because I can go on.
So I just want to say that our current administration is looking under every stone for ways to bring in revenue. One of the things that they're doing, and I'm sure, I think we probably talked about it before, that they're improving the technology citywide, or citywide departments, in order for there to be better communication between departments, and they're hoping to save money that way. We have a lot of rental properties here where there's no, they haven't received a permit, and so they haven't been inspected for codes violations, so they're being much more thorough about making sure every property that is a rental property is, investigated for being up to code, and which is for the safety of the people who live there, and they expect to bring in additional revenue for that. And then there are some other fees that they, in a couple of other areas with the fire department, Department of Recreation. So we are looking under every stone to bring in this increased revenue. She's doing Mary's doing her very best not to increase property taxes, because we are some overtaxed in the city. So we're gonna keep working on it. We have to make a decision on the budget by December 1st.
So the tax fee would be in the budget?
Mm-hmm.
Tax fee.
The garbage, actually, that's going to be in local law. How we actually look at that. But that is, she has that in the budget, so when we pass that amount, $1.5 million that she expects to raise through trash collection fees will be in the budget. How we go about doing that is in the local law. That's correct. Yes. There is a lot of discussion, though, as somebody mentioned, about extending that to all properties.
Well, there was a day when we didn't have to pay for our water either.
Yeah.
The water was, so it's like just creeping up and every charges for every and pay.
Which is why we're working very hard to get them more money from the state.
The $1.5 million that you mentioned is separate from the $12.5 million.
Yes.
So,
Yes, so there's still 12.5 million.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I did hear from Officer Carter, who was make it tonight due to a family emergency, so the sergeant was supposed to be in, but I guess he's not making it. So I don't have anything to share other than the emergency stuff, yes. So I guess we'll wrap up. I usually take suggestions from the speaker at the next meeting at this time. Now, there was supposed to be another speaker here originally tonight, but he had to cancel, and that is Robert McGee. He's the new director of codes and enforcement. So speaking of codes enforcement, he's the guy who we go to about properties, overgrown lawns, people like things like that. So he wanted to come in and talk about what he does and how people can get in touch with the city if they have complaints or issues. But anybody else have any suggestions? If you can't think of them right now, just feel free to email.
Lives within our boundaries.
What's that?
Robert McGee lives within our boundaries.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. And then I'll yeah, my suggestion.
Sure.
Ask me, you say you did.
Yeah, well, last time they were trying to freeze us out, so, and this time it seems like they're trying to make us pass out, sweating.
I forgot to ask Sue a question. How's the collection go?
Oh, that's a very nice question. I belong to the Northeast Woodworkers Association, and one of the things they do is make 150 large, sort of like electronic mice for cerebral palsy children and disabled, so that they can play with their toys or their computers or whatever. And they construct them out of wood turned, they use wiring, but the actual thing that you touch are mayonnaise jar lids, plastic ones, and Skippy peanut butter lids. And so I've been begging people to save those lids and pass them on.
Mayonnaise jar lids and
Yeah,
peanut butter
and the
jar
restaurant
lids.
size mayonnaise jars, they really need that.
You talk about plastic ones?
Plastic, it has to
Plastic,
be the
no,
plastic and the Skippy peanut butter.
And what's your turquoise?
Well, it doesn't matter what color, but the Northeast Woodworkers Association is a small group that called the Toy Modification Group, and they're retired engineers, and they build these things. But the little key component is this colorful lid that goes on the electronic device.
Easier for.
Yes, yes, so that, you know, kids that are unsteady with their hands and still
Maybe
use
maybe
it.
we can get that into the newsletter.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So if people have these and they want to get them to you, how do they do that?
Well, how about if I write to you and I'll send you a couple of pictures of exactly what is built and.
So do they have the Woodworkers Association as a place where people can send them?
Or, well, they could send them to me and because I go to the woodworkers every week, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like if people want to donate these to you. Right, yeah, just send me an email and I
Okay.
can share them.
Yeah, and I can include a couple of pictures so you can see exactly how they're used.
Yes.
Eric, the city of Albany is engaged in what's the word? A new zoning.
Yeah, rezone all.
Rezone
Yes,
all.
they just came out with the draft model.
And there are some milestones that are coming up. They had a series of workshops past week, and an outline of suggested usages that would go into the zoning code. That's on the Rezone Albany, was it .com, .gov website. And this is the time that people are interested in making comments on an initial, it's not the full draft, but it's the first, what they call module. I think a 3-module code. So they are, the consultant at the meeting last week said that if you can get the comments in before Christmas on a draft of a part of the code, because they're going to be working that into a second module that's going to be, I think, issued in January, about January.
Did they talk about any specific zones yet, or was it still at a pretty general level?
It was a general level.
Okay.
The workshop discussed things like, about like what type of uses would be permitted. So that's one of the things that hit my eye is on one of the lines is marijuana manufacturing. Somebody wants to put something like that down in the warehouse district. So there are, there's going to be different, typical bars, restaurants, and stuff like that. That would be it too. But it's it's hard to understand, quite frankly.
Well, the old code was pretty hard to
if you want to see something, you don't want to see something that's, being proposed, the usage. This is the time to, email Brad Glass, contact for the city of Albany, and the
Martin Daly was kind of the public face for that too. Honestly, I was involved heavily with that back in spring, and I thought the neighborhood associations were going to involved more. Initially, they reached out to us so that we could provide a lot of contacts for them to get back to them, and that all just kind of fizzled. And they didn't really stick to the project.
They had two series of workshops. The first, there's a lot of push in the city to revitalize the waterfront district, the warehouse district, and down on Broadway. So there was a series of workshops on that, specifically what could be done, what type of usages, what do you do with the existing owners that maybe have, people got plumbing, supply things, so houses and stuff like that. How does that integrate with restaurants, bars, entertainment district, etc.? So it does get complicated, but that's the first, this is the first phase that you can make comments. I think the second module is going to be a little more meat and potatoes and a little more concrete. You might think, for probably not January meeting, but the one in the springtime, have somebody come and grab glass or Chris Spencer, come.
Yeah, we did have Chris Spencer here again to give us an update.
Yeah, give you an update on where things are
And
going.
we do have a representative of this neighborhood, so we.
Yeah, we've got,
her list of
it was Mark Daly, and I can't remember her name now, Alyssa.
List of one.
Yeah, but like I said, originally I worked with them back in the spring, and then, it kind of ceased. I didn't get invited to any more meetings or anything, so I guess whatever.
They did another workshop also, just focusing on Central Avenue, from
Specifically
Whale Street to Banning Boulevard. So stuff has been going on, but if you're not on their email list, or if you don't go.
I'm on all the email lists, and I get everything, and but I'm just saying they didn't have that much, and they certainly didn't involve me as much as they originally said they were going to.
Go to their website.
I think everybody's involved. I think everybody heard about it multiple times, so if they wanted to receive emails, they have them. So I haven't been resending those out. So again, if you have any other suggestions for speakers or just anything in general that you want to suggest, let us know. So I guess that's it. Our next meeting is going to be in January 2016, and everybody have wonderful holidays.
How about vote results?
Oh, the voting results. So yes, the votes are in. So a majority says yes, we are going to publicly support this. There's 23 yeses and 2 noes.
Ooh.
And a total of those, 9 of those votes were absentee votes.
Oh. Maybe not. So it's not necessarily somebody in this room.
Yeah.
Maybe they voted down because they should be more money.
That's a possibility.